Happy Thursday, rock and roll stars. So, when I go back to Tuesday's episode and give a coaching tip on something that I always do, I learned a long time ago before I wrote the book about the difference between using one's judgment and being a judge. And so, this comes down in the chapter about self talk and your inner voice, basically. And when you think about the grind, you can your words have power, right? So when you say I'm grinding, it's a struggle, I don't like to use that type of talk with myself because then what you find is that you get more struggle, you get more grind. So what you want to try to say is I'm thriving, I'm in the process of discovering what works best for me. Because it's really the same situation, but how you frame it, I think, has huge psychological implications on how you get out of it, if that's the goal. Sometimes people they love to wallow in the mire, as Jim Morrison sang in Come On, Baby, Light My Fire. And I think so that this is one of the things that I do when I try to think about how do I speak with myself and what do I shut up when I'm talking. No, just kidding. So there are lots of voices going on in my head at any given time. So you pay attention to the positive talk. Try to reframe things and say it in the positive. Say it in the present tense. Because, like, I am going to be a world-class trader might sound powerful, but when? Right? Because I am going to is the future tense. And in the paradigm that I exist in, the future doesn't exist. All I have is right now. The things that I'm looking for tend to happen in the future because of the work that I'm doing right here, right now. So when there is a struggle or a grind, I don't really perceive things that way. I perceive markets as stalling as part of the nature of markets, and I'm lucky to participate in them. The goal is to keep your losses small throughout any particular market cycle, if you want to call it that. But I don't want to label things as being difficult because then I'll just see the difficulty in everything. You see? And so I try to frame it in the mindset of I'm gathering data, I'm evaluating the data right now. I'm going to study the data, quantify the data, maybe come to some conclusions if I can, iterate, practice, and then I get to incorporate any that data or wisdom into my current trading platform, rules, system, whatever. So you can do a lot of great work as a homework assignment for yourself if you start to think in terms of where in your life are you actually being a judge and being judgmental, because that means bias, and that you typically have to be taught. So instead of doing that, use your judgment and evaluate the situation and put it in a positive spin. So in the case of the Tuesday's episode, we talked about someone who was struggling for 3 years, trying to trade within a 2-hour window before focusing their efforts on a 9 to 5 situation. And I was thinking like that might be difficult to navigate because you forced yourself to have to make money in a very short window of time where the people you're competing against, you're probably competing against yourself, admittedly, but the rest of the market has more time to sit and wait to let things evolve. Now, if you trade the open, certainly you can trade a system. I've talked about those before and the benefits of having overnight risk. And you can certainly hit me up. If you don't remember that, I'll point you in the right direction. But I think it could do wonders for your mindset if you start to think of things in the positive, right? But then you also have to add a little bit of decisiveness to say, okay, 3 years, I've given myself enough time. This isn't 3 weeks or 3 months, right? So 3 to 6 months, you're probably getting to the spot where you have enough data where you can learn to make a pivot. And pivoting is hard because you might not know what to pivot to. So in that particular case, I would just take a time out, use my judgment and say, I'm still committed to trading and making money, but what I've been doing heretofore hasn't been working. How do I know? Well, my account isn't growing. I might have to refund my account or add new funds over time in order to kind of keep things going. Again, I'll go back and mention too, because I don't know who the audience is or who might this might help, in that, if your account is underfunded, you might feel like you always have to take the risk off, because even having a micro contract overnight just seems like it's just too much risk for you. Your account is probably underfunded at that point. Because if you think about like what the standard deviation is, looking at the daily chart of the price moves, and your account, you can't take a 1 or 2 standard deviation move against you, you don't have enough money. And so when you're trying to trade underfunded, it puts you in a bad mindset where you start with nothing but bad habits, as far as I can see. So I would tend to say save your money and get to the spot where you could look and see, okay, well, what happened if I would have like a 5 standard deviation move against me? What would that mean to my capital? Another way to look at it would be to convert your trading strategies to options, right? Because at least at that point, you know what your max losses are. But anytime you're trying to take small gains in a short window of time, I don't know where the financial abundance is that. So again, without being a judge, I would just say look at your behavior and conjugate that with what your goals are. You know what I mean? So you could also apply that to your life, because you're the pilot, the navigator. You get to determine how you want things to go. You get to design your life the way you want it to go. If you're listening to the voices of your parents or some other person in your head, you might be into people pleasing or caring too much about what other people think about you. I'm luckily not in that space myself. There have probably been times where I've heard voices in my head about things, but that's when I was living somebody else's life for that brief moment in time. And I quickly came back to center to understand that I get to make the decisions in my life and do things the way I see good and fit. So I'd like you to try to practice that and do that for yourself as well. And this little trick of looking at your self-talk and kind of determining, am I using my judgment or am I being a judge? This can really help you get a step closer to, finding a solution, especially when you use your judgment and then reframe things in the positive and in the present tense. I think that'll help you a lot. Thanks for being here, folks. I'll see you tomorrow. Okay, everybody, thanks for being here. Please take a minute, like and subscribe to the show. You could also leave a comment. I don't have all the answers, so it's good to get some feedback. Also, if you would like to support the show, check out the links below. You can get the free audiobook of The Inner Voice of Trading, and also information about the course that I teach with Victor Sperandio. Thanks for being here, folks. I'll see you tomorrow.